Good morning, students. It is the first chapter from Hornbill for class 11, those who study in CBSE. The name of the chapter is The Portrait of a Lady, written by a prominent writer and journalist who was born in Punjab, that is Khuswant Singh. The writing of this very great writer from Punjab has really touched the hearts and minds of millions, especially in the old days. He wrote the article in Hindustan that was Bura Mano Ya Bhala, really told about the acts of the things that continued to be persistently done by the political leaders as well as the society people that are better or the worse, that he expressed his emotions so fearlessly. But here in this very lesson, the writer wants to narrate about his very sensitive and well understood expressions that he realized in the early childhood as well as when he went abroad and when he just migrated from the village to the city. So it is a very wonderful account of his life story that we are going to be introduced. In this story, the author draws a painted portrait of his grandmother. He beautifully unfolds his relationship with her while describing her appearance and daily activities. What kind of lady was his grandmother, not only in appearance but in behavior, that we are going to study. The author recalls his grandmother as a very old lady with a wrinkled and puckered face. She appeared so old that it was hard for him to believe that she had once been young and pretty. She was short, fat, and a little stooped in appearance, and she hobbled almost while walking. The author remembers her movement and the moving about the house in a spotless white sari, counting the beads of her rosary that we call mala generally, that is either made of rudraksh or tulsi, while her lips moved constantly in silent prayers as he was a Sikh, and so she also believed in Sikhism. She was not pretty in the traditional sense, yet her serenity made her beautiful. Really, the writer talks about her beautiful mind. She was fair complexioned lady. Her hair was completely white. She used to wear a spotless white sari. Now I tell you about the initial years of that very young boy who lived with the grandmother in the village. In the initial years of his life, the author lived with his grandmother in the village, who shared a good friendship with her. His grandmother used to wake him up in the morning and get him ready for the school. She would hand over to him the things he required in the school. As she cleaned her slate, she provided him chalk and provided him some chapatis with sugar and creamery. After having thick stale chapatis, with butter and sugar for breakfast. They used to leave for a school which was located in a temple yard. The author's grandmother always accompanied him to school as it was attached to the temple. It was her habit to carry several steel chapatis for the village dogs, which they used to feed while returning from the school. The grandmother used to sit inside the temple reading holy books while the narrator learned alphabets and prayers in the school. Really, it was the thing that was done in the village when both of them were quite young. Both of them went together to school. Now it was a turning point of their friendship life in the city. How did it happen that we are doing today? The turning point of their friendship came when grandmother and the narrator moved to the city to stay with the author's parents. Though they shared the same room, his grandmother no longer accompanied him to the school since the author started going to school in a bus. As years rolled by, the years passed, they saw less of each other. Meanwhile, as there were no dogs in the street, she took to feeding the sparrows. Means grandmother just wanted to engage herself in some other charitable activities which would be a better pastime for her. Unlike the village school, the author was not taught about God. That was her concern. She wanted the morality to be taught to the children. She disliked that very school. And the scriptures which touched and the scriptures which troubled his grandmother. Means he was taught in a missionary school. She did not believe in what was being taught at his school. Why? Because he taught the children science and some other things, not about the scriptures, not about the holy things, and was unhappy as she could not help him with his lessons. She was unable to help. She was not so much educated. She was disturbed at the idea of music lessons being given at school. Why? Because she considered music to be unsuitable for gentle people, gentle folk. Her disapproval was conspicuous in her silence as she believed that there was the authority of the harlots on the music and she disliked it completely. The grandmother wanted to just struggle when she had to live in loneliness by combating with the idea of that feeding the street dogs, but here in the town, in the city, she had to feed sparrows. When the author started going to the university, he was given a room of his own as he had grown up. It resulted in a further gap between them. She accepted her loneliness and rarely spoke to anyone else. All day long, she sat spinning the wheel and reciting her prayers. She relaxed for a short time. Only in the afternoon, she used to feed the sparrows who came in large numbers. There was a good bond between them. They comforted her, and it was quite evident that she just liked to feed them by throwing the food grains, and all these birds, sparrows, came sitting on her legs, head, and shoulders. They were so happy, and she also felt delighted in doing such activities. Now, what did happen? Author just leaves for higher studies. He goes abroad. The author decided to go abroad for further studies. He was sure that his grandmother would be upset. at his departure, but it did not happen. On the contrary, she came to the railway station to see him off, but did not show any kind of emotion that she had craved in her heart. She was absorbed in her prayers, telling the beads of her rosary. She silently kissed the author's forehead, which the author considered to be the last sign of their physical contact, but it was not. It was his dilemma. And so, now what did happen there? Arthur's homecoming was a great event. On his return after 5 years, the author did not find any change in his grandmother's appearance. She was as old as ever and remained absorbed in her prayers. Even that day, the happiest moment of her life was feeding the sparrows. In the evening, for the first time ever, she did not pray. She collected several ladies of the neighborhood and sang songs related to the homecoming of the warriors. She had to be persuaded to stop singing in order to avoid overstraining. However, the next day she was taken ill. It was just approaching end of his grandmother. How did she die? Though diagnosed with a mild fever by the doctor, grandmother knew that her end was approaching. She decided to spend the last few hours of her life reciting prayers and telling her beads. Soon her lips stopped moving and her hands stopped and the rosary fell down. It was signal that she was no more. She died. Then after silent tribute by sparrows. How did the sparrows give their silent tribute? The family went to make arrangements for the grandmother's funeral. As they came with their stretcher, they stopped midway to find thousands of sparrows scattered around her dead body, and they were sitting on the railings. The sparrows mourned, expressed the death of grandmother in utter silence. When Arthur's mother just gave them crumbs of bread, they ignored it completely. When her dead body was taken away for cremation to the burial place, they all flew away silently. It means that these silent creatures who were quite happy in association with grandmother, they also mourned death. In this way, I just told you all the summary with the certain points, and later I hope you will understand it and listening to this. Thank you, children. Thank you. Thank you, children. All of you. Thank you.